AI is a point of contention between artists. Well, not artists, but rather people who don't draw going. Who needs a person when I could generate this? It's like the worst thing you've ever seen. Forgetting AI legal troubles for a second, I thought about people tracing over AI content. And there are some Twitter artists that I suspect do. You know, the ones that never show the process of how they made the piece, or any piece in general. Oh, my PC ain't powerful enough to record and draw, or my bad, I just forgot to record. You know, those types of people. But AI content is much like any art, people can use the traceover. So this is a bad thing to do, why shouldn't we? But before we do that, we have to go over the good and bad cases of using tracing, because the term in of itself is neutral. The two biggest things that make tracing okay is consent from the artist, or how public you are about tracing. It's either that you are learning, or nicely ask permission. For the former, tracing is a good way to better understand form and anatomy. If you do trace for practice and want to post it online, it's always good to tell people,
yes, this is traced, look at me, I'm learning, yay!
You know, so you don't get a lot of people raw dogging you in the comments about it. For this, you don't necessarily have to ask permission, as the sole purpose for this form of tracing is learning and not profit. Though it could still be good to credit the art you're learning from.
So what about tracing for profit? Can that be done?
Of course. Rotoscoping is a widely known medium that is seen in many films, gags and cartoons, and even a lot of memes. For the latter two, part of the joke is the fact it's more realistically drawn, and thus adds to the punchline. Other forms of tracing will be over 3D objects you created, purchased, or advised to use for your production. Drawing cars sucks ass, so using CGI to trace over saves a lot of time. That, or using stylized 3D models like the ones you see in Family Guy and even American Dad. And this isn't just the case for cars, as you can trace over 3D models in general. The difference is that there's still some artistic creativity in this, and it's not a one-to-one trace. The music video for Freak of the Week used this method, and it turned out pretty well. Another form is just tracing over your own works, such as if you have a low-resolution image you want to redraw for a reference sheet, or basically you're transferring it to another program, or even because you just lost the original file. Ahoy made a video about that subject, and you should watch it after this video. It's a burger. As for studios that use rigs, they will often get someone to make the rigs in Adobe Animate or Toon Boom by first drawing over the character turnaround sheets. As a brief history lesson, the Hackney Falco thesis believes that early painters like 16th century Dutch artist Johan Vermeer used the camera obscura to get a more accurate perspective in their paintings, but still in doing this, they have to be a good painter. Aside from tracing, using textures is always fun for art. Either royalty-free, purchased, or made yourself, adding textures for 2D or 3D arts can really make it pop. A culmination of these techniques would be photo bashing, where you merge photographs, 2D or 3D assets together to make one finished piece. It's really cool and is often used in concept art. Lastly, we have mocap suits, which are the modern day version of the Fleischer machine. Using these silly looking suits, the computers capture the actors and apply 3D characters onto them, with tweaks here and there. At worst, you get movies like Cats, where they didn't wear traditional mocap suits, causing the animators to basically freehand the entire goddamn thing. Or like the Polar Express in the cancelled Beatles film that looked too realistic, like they could have just been live action, I guess. Pixar actually poked fun at this in the film Ratatouille. In the end credits, you see a caption that says,
100% genuine animation. No motion capture or any other performance shortcuts were used in the production of this film.
So to sum up this chapter, if you have consent or are open about your methods, it's all good. But what about the bad instances of tracing? In all the instances I showed above, the person one way or another got consent in order to trace. In the online space, when someone is called out for tracing, it's often because they did over another person's work, fully claiming it as their own. This is usually the case when someone wants money or likes without the hard work. And with that, the person they trace from more than likely did not consent for this action. When caught, you'll sometimes see people say they forgot to credit the artist or claim that they were inspired by them, but no, I was definitely not tracing over that person. Sometimes people will take the image and skew it a bit, so it's not a one-to-one to try and cover up what they did. Tracing in this form is a crutch to artists as they aren't really improving, and basically have to rely on another person or persons in order to finish a piece. In the community, people perceive this person as less of an artist, more of a thief for what they have done, no matter how the work turned out. And I know this because I made some videos over such tracers. Some would try in vain to say that they never traced, but then like never proved it by doing a speed paint or like a live stream proving they can draw the thing. While others would proudly claim that they do, but not for learning, just stealing. Like, why would you be proud of ruining your art journey and stealing from others? I know how this feels, because believe me, I used to trace a lot and tried to hide it. Whoops. So this brings in the topic of this video. Is tracing over AI art wrong? Well, the answer is a bit more complicated than just yes and no. And I'll explain after this transition screen that I made you're gonna watch right now. art in its current form is imitative at creating art. It's not creating it. Well, art, by definition, has to be made by a human, so no matter how many sentences you typed, this is no different than sending a paragraph to an artist and claiming you made the work because you vaguely told them what to do. So for AI, I'll just refer to what it makes as output or content. Very gross words. These AI bots, like Midjourney and even Bing's image creator, steals images from other people and photo bashes it together the best it can. Sometimes it's not obvious where it steals from, and sometimes it is, like Stable Diffusion, as they were in the news for stealing Getty's images works. It's like clear, like look at that. Clear. Not only that, many companies and even industries have banned AI content, mainly because it's a legal nightmare if the artists decide to sue the company. Another issue of AI content is that it doesn't quite understand why things are the way they are, which is why all the outputs looks a bit off no matter what. To go into anatomy, the human eye is flawed and imperfect. It has a limited spectrum of light, or colors, that we can see, and color is essentially how light reflects onto objects to our eyeballs and the cone receptors in them. The mantis shrimp actually has 16 more color receptors than we do, and can detect 10 times more color than any human. The thing is, the computer is not limited by our eyesight, and is not entirely trained on what is good or bad. The uncanny valley is a hypothesized realization between an object's degree of resemblance to a human being, and the emotional response to the object. There are a lot of reasons why seeing something almost human disgusts us, versus something that's vaguely human and is pretty cool. This could derive from when Homo sapiens weren't just the only talking monkey species on Earth. Like, it's not straight evolution, it's like a bunch of evolutions. Just a bunch. Perhaps we avoided or murdered the Homo habilis, or the Australopithecus afarenus, because they're a bit too mean, or kept pissing on our fires. Though apparently, that never stopped us from having sex with the other hominids. Homo neanderthals got that thing going on, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So when it comes to creating art and viewing these AI creations, the software isn't trained in what is human, or really what humans like. We only tell it what things it shouldn't be. The software is essentially blind, making this output taken from flawed images. Well, flawed is a loose term, but the cameras that we use every day do not capture reality. If we did, we would not buy them. In fact, it captures what we want reality to be. Everything from the LUTs on raw video to using different focal lengths, the computer's pulling from very images of humans that it can't really tell the difference of. This is even worse for cameras on phones that uses its own AI to enhance photos, either making the sky a bit blue or completely replacing the moon, I guess. And Marquise Brownlee actually made a video about this, as well as camera comparisons that show how truly different the cameras we have in our pockets are. So the AI is trained from a falsified reality, and most people using these programs are not telling it no or going,
"That's almost there."
Because the demographic most using these are dweebs into crypto, who hate paying artists and just want the large-breasted medieval women art for free. As for 2D and 3D content, it's also an approximation. The AI often does a good job of capturing the idea or aesthetic of something, but never quite gets it right. It's essentially generating a 3D space without 3D. The third dimension can only really work with time, but the computer has to artificially generate a scene that will never move, thus making it a bit off and of itself. It's even worse for those AI videos that try its best, like Will Smith eating spaghetti or Trump fighting an octopus, that the computer is photobashing many videos of different focal lengths and sensor sizes and trying to create a continuous thing. A lot of detail has to go into inputting data, or else the computer won't really know what to do with the info, i.e. describing what is in the photo, which most people don't seem to do, and this causes a lot of weird outputs. So when it comes to the question, is it morally wrong or bad to trace from AI content, the question should rather be, why would you want to? Even with the approximations of life from cameras or the abstract nature of drawings from professional artists, just learn from them. They have a better understanding of composition and anatomy. With AI, you're essentially ruining your art journey from using it. For inspiration, I would say it's fine, but to rely on it comes a hindrance depending on what you want from it. Inspiration comes from many places, and AI content can be good, if only to try to better visualize what you want and not a paint by the numbers ordeal. The idea that you're using AI content as a tool to help advance your art and not a substitution for. In all instances where I talked about it positively, there is still purpose, intention, and vision that the artist wanted to capture. From the painters of the 15th century, rotoscoping, or motion capture, tracing isn't the final step, but rather a branching off point in your piece. With tracing, there still needs to be skill to push it from derivative to innovative. I used to trace a lot, and I completely understand wanting to achieve something, but your hands won't allow you. My current work still retain the derivative nature. While not traced, it's also really not its own style. Though I would hate to imagine an alternate timeline where I trace traced from a computer, one that never took an anatomy class, versus people I traced from who have a better understanding of form and function. So if you see your friend clearly tracing from AI, you should encourage them to stop and trace from a professional to practice anatomy. And if you follow an artist that happens to be tracing from AI content, it's really no different than paying someone else to type a sentence into a computer. If you want AI porn, just generate yourself, I guess. Like, what are people supposed to really get out of following someone who traces or just posts AI content? Whoa, dude, you're so good at typing a sentence. Wow, I can't do that. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to support me on everything. I mean it, like my Twitters, YouTube channels, even my Patreon. Go do it. Until next time, keep on drawing, and don't forget to have fantastic.